Welcome to the menu of intellectual property management for motion picture. Movie writing is about 150 years old. We've learned what works and we've learned what doesn't. There are many formatting options, as many software tools as you can use to make one, and some AI websites offer you to do this task for you. You'll get out of it what you put into it. As far as I'm concerned, you're all here to learn, so let's get started. Once you're done with the writing phase, you're going to need brand equity to sell it. Brand equity works like this. You're never going to be as big as Jesus. During our lifetimes, famous people do exist. You're going to need a chaperone unless your parents are the famous people we see on the news today for all the right reasons. And I don't mean zip code famous. I mean internationally famous. And even then, children of famous figures struggle to become known for their own work. We'll return to that in a moment. Let's discuss building the story. Story structure. Story structure is, in the abstract, an objective version of your story. It's telling the story as if you have no attachment to it. To help you iron it out, use a smartphone, if it helps you at all, or an IA app to create a conceptual visual aid that helps connect the watcher to the idea. After your story can be told in 3 sentences, a beginning, a middle, and an end, typically 25 words or less total, now you're ready to start fleshing it out. That phase will be called a treatment. Now there's no set length. It should read like a bare-bone novel. Leave out the dialogue. Just tell us what happens and who is related to who. It's a technical writing exercise for a story that you may feel very passionate about, so you may need help to be objective. Instead of saying characters or ambiance feels sad or happy, use broader words like emotional. Also, avoid the trap of imitating your favorite works of others. As a beginning writer, the worlds of Star Wars, Quantum Leap, and The Karate Kid dominated my mindset. You need to find your voice. I found mine in the Bible, but you need to find yours. Once you get the treatment done, return to it over time. It's going to change. You're going to get better ideas. Don't ever settle for your first draft. You're done when someone agrees to transfer its ownership like any other property with or without money. So, how do you get to that point? The money? Brand equity. I want to limit my anecdote examples here because I want this video to be as concise as possible, but there is a reliable and verifiable story, one that most people can grasp, that talks about brand equity. George Lucas was able to get his first film, THX, made as a feature film for Warner Brothers because it was an award-winning student film out of USC in 1967. They had their own publicity division for that. He met Frank Coppola during that time, and it was Frank's name that Lucas was given opportunity, not on his own. Now, a few things happened between 1967 and 1977. The studio system was dying, and Fox was looking for ways to have writers work for free. So they asked the USC writing department if they had students willing to write on some of their productions, paying them with academic credit. George C. Scott had been paid by Fox to star in a war film about General Patton, and Coppola was asked to do a rewrite. Again, no money. And he had no idea who he was writing for. He and another student named John Milius were literally slugging it out at USC when they submitted their draft for student credit. A year later, life is going on here, guys. You got to have your scruffy jobs, your side gigs. Patton won the Oscar for Best Screenplay, and that wasn't enough for Coppola to become famous. Roger Corman had produced his first couple of films, and they did very little business at the box office. But the financial decision makers at Paramount knew who Frank was and asked him to rescue a development nightmare that they had invested in, which you would know as The Godfather. After The Godfather miraculously made its way into box office history, the studio system fell over itself to get the words, "From the man who gave you The Godfather," onto an ad. Mario Puzo was paid $1 million for a one-page treatment for Superman, and George Lucas's American Graffiti was greenlit. So it's safe to say that Star Wars was made possible by the success of Patton. And The Omen. Fox president Alan Ladd Jr. used the box office from The Omen to pay the bills for what we know today as ILM. Now I want you to think in terms of chaperone. You need a bigger name to get your story chaperoned. You need a bigger name to chaperone your story. Now, there may be someone famous enough in your life to put their name on your story, but you at least have to craft it in such a way that they understand it so that it sizzles. Now, as a holder of 3 master's degrees, including film editing, business, and psychology, and after writing and editing 35 books, 4 biographies, and 3 Pulitzer nominations that no one in Webland cares about, I have found that the most people are pretty shitty writers. And those of us who are good, to quote Mr. Miyagi about karate knowledge, someone always knows more. Your goal is not to sell your script. Your goal is to sell your story rights. I promise you, someone else is going to come in and rewrite it. Once you sell something, that becomes your brand equity. And when you're famous enough, they are buying your story because of your brand equity. They're not buying your story because they think it's great. They're buying your name because audiences know who your project belongs to. They don't care about who the writer is. They know whatever it is that they saw by title, and that's why they're buying it from you. This industry has a legend in it that Gary Kurtz, the original producer of Star Wars, declined to produce Return of the Jedi because he knew its principal function was to market toys. George Lucas had figured out that his brand equity, Star Wars, was a means to an end. And that's one of the reasons why you have to choose. What exactly do you want to make? What's your motivation for being here? If all you want to do is make money, you're in the wrong profession. Most people write and don't go anywhere. So make no mistake. Make a calculated decision about how you invest your time. Another example is Aaron Sorkin. He was an undergraduate student who wrote a play called Removing All Doubt. This got the trust of his professors. That led to an off-Broadway play called Hidden in This Picture. And then he got on the phone with his sister, tired and broke one day from doing, again, side gig jobs. And his sister was working as an attorney, and that's where he got his inspiration for a play called A Few Good Men. Later on, Demi Moore played his sister in the movie adapted by Rob Reiner that hit the theaters in 1992. His draft was rewritten by William Goldman. You may recognize that name. He's the guy who gave us The Princess Bride. The Princess Bride itself was a novel published when Goldman was an unknown writer. He didn't get famous until he later won the Oscar for Butch Cassidy. Brand equity. Brand equity. Brand equity. They're not buying your story because they like it, no matter how good it may be. Now, there are some steps you're going to want to consider here. Fame has downsides. You lose your privacy. Once you climb onto YouTube like this, you lose the majority of your protections from the Privacy Act. When you appear as a performer on YouTube in any capacity, you forfeit the majority of your privacy rights. In most cases, you don't get paid to write. You get paid for the use of your name. You may be aware of who Aaron Sorkin or George Lucas are because I just told you all about them, and because they made The West Wing and Star Wars. And you may have no idea who I am. I wrote a bunch of scripts in the early 1990s, and Disney almost optioned my Die Hard parody called Study Hard. It was the Muppets in a college environment with squirt guns. It was pretty funny at the time. New Line Cinema took a long look at it, and their board, loose term, voted 8-7 to make, instead of my movie, another one you have heard of called Rush Hour. A true story. Now, I'd run for Congress a few times, and in 2026, I ran for Colorado's Secretary of State. I also wrote a screenplay that Spike Lee used to make He Got Game. Oh, yes, I did, but you won't see my name anywhere near it. The bigger the name, they can steal from you, and they often do. I hold a master's degree in film editing and an MBA, and I also have a master's in psychology. Welcome to the business of show. If much of what I just shared with you is new to you, you're learning how to read the menu that is explained in detail in your junior and senior year of college fine arts classes and graduate college. And the completion of the viewing of this video does not give you a master's degree. What I am giving you is insight on what questions to ask and of whom. I'm going to finish with a famous allegory by late comedian and Saturday Night Live comedy star Norm Macdonald. He said a man with blurred vision went into a store and tried to order food. He told them how hungry he was and showed them his money to buy a single meal and asked to be served. The manager replied, "Sir, I would love to serve you, but I don't believe you understand that you're in a shoe store." Ideas are not valuable until they're sold, and more often than not, the original writer never gets paid. Story structure. We need to be able to understand you. Brand equity. You need to make me want to pay you, or they won't. Corey Perella, the storyteller here. I hold multiple teaching licenses in multiple states, and students and clients of mine have played in CBS's March Madness. Don't be afraid to watch this video again. We'll meet again soon.